Hi everyone, so today's video is going to be on the excretory system. So we know that we have metabolic processes in the body, and these processes, for example, cellular respiration, produces some waste products that need to be removed. And that's the purpose of the excretory system, is to remove these wastes. So some examples of waste include carbon dioxide and urea, and we've also got excretion of excess materials as well, for example, water and salts. So the organs of the excretory system or excretion include the skin. This is where excess amount of salt and water and some urea are expelled as sweat. The kidney is important in the or as an organ of excretion because it's there to filter the blood to remove urea and any other waste products as well as water and salt. You've got the bladder, which is where we store the urine before it's expelled and excreted from the body. We have the lungs, which is where the excretion of carbon dioxide and some water vapor occurs. So the human excretory system, we've got the kidney and the bladder. So one of the systems is the urinary system that makes up the excretory system, and we've got the vena cava that returns blood to the heart after it's been filtered through the kidneys. We have the kidneys that produce urine, which is your blood filtration that removes any waste products. We've got your renal vein that turns the blood from the kidney back to the venous circulation. We've got our bladder that we've already talked about that stores urine. We've got our dorsal aorta that supplies oxygenated blood to the body's tissues and organs. So in this case, into the kidneys. So this is where the blood, after it's picked up its waste products, it's then filtered into the kidney for filtration. We've got the renal artery that again carries blood from the aorta to the kidney for filtration. And we've got the ureter that carries urine to the bladder after it's been filtered. And the urethra, which moves waste products from the bladder out through the the urethra, which is where the urine is expelled. So the internal kidney structure, as the main functional unit of the kidney is the nephron, which we're going to look at in more detail over the next couple of slides. And each kidney contains about 1 million nephrons, and they are the filter element of the kidney. So a nephron is where all the filtering of blood occurs in the body. So part of the nephron is the Bowman's capsule, and this is where blood is first pumped into the nephron as it enters the kidney. So blood is pumped in through this series of capillaries. So the Bowman's capsule is this part here, and the glomerulus is the part that surrounds the Bowman's capsule. And we get filtration of the blood from the Bowman's capsule. Oh, sorry, the glomerulus is this part here, and the Bowman's capsule is this part around here. Sorry, my mistake. So the blood filters from the glomerulus into the Bowman's capsule and then starts making its way through the nephron. Now I do want to open up this here because I think this is okay. So here we have our nephron, and we have blood that's pumped in to the glomerulus, which is surrounded by the Bowman's capsule. Now we can actually have a look at the different materials that are filtered out of the blood, and as they move through the nephron, and whether they're being absorbed or filtered. Sorry, reabsorbed or filtered. So let's start with water. So our water molecule is filtered out and then starts moving through the tubule. Now it can be reabsorbed back into the capillary network, or depending on what the water's like in terms of the water in the body, it can be reabsorbed back into the blood system, the capillary network. So water can either be reabsorbed or it can be moved into the collecting duct. So let's have a look at protein, for example. So protein, being such a large molecule, isn't actually filtered. So you'll notice that it doesn't actually go from the glomerulus into the Bowman's capsule. It just stays in the capillary network to be not even reabsorbed, but just absorbed back into the system. because protein is not a waste product. All right, moving on to sodium. Sodium is filtered out, and depending on the levels of sodium in the body, can either be reabsorbed or it can be moved as a uh, waste product in the collecting duct. Again, depending on what the body needs it for. Moving on to glucose, if we have a look at glucose, again, glucose is not a waste product, so glucose is filtered but will be reabsorbed and moved out of the kidney to be used throughout the body. And the last one that I want to have a look at is urea. So urea is a waste product. So when we see urea being filtered, it is never reabsorbed. Okay, so it will move all the way through the tubule into the collecting duct, ready to be expelled as urine, as a waste product in the body. So this is just the nephron structure again. You do need to be familiar with these parts of the nephron. So we've got the glomerulus, which is the capillary network where filtration occurs. We then have the Bowman's capsule where the filtered blood is then moved through the tubule, down the loop of Henle, and then depending on whether it's being resorbed back into the capillary network or whether it's being collected in the collecting duct. So again, this just summarizes the movement of substances in whether they're being reabsorbed or filtered into the collecting duct. This passive can be either passive, which means it doesn't require any energy, so it occurs through diffusion, or it can be an active process, which means it does require energy. So urine control is controlled by a hormone called the antidiuretic hormone, or ADH for short. And this hormone controls how much water is moved out of the body into the collecting duct. So what ADH does is it increases the permeability of the kidney collecting duct so that water is more so it's more permeable to water, and that means water is reabsorbed back into the capillary network and the urine volume decreases. So if we have a look back at this diagram here, what happens is that if we've got, say, water in our collecting duct here, and for whatever reason you haven't been drinking water for a couple of hours, the body will release the ADH hormone, and that will signal the collecting duct to become more permeable to water, which means that water will move from here across into the capillary network. If we were to go over to here, it'll be reabsorbed back into this capillary network and then move back around the body. So you can actually recover water from the collecting duct before it moves to the bladder if your body needs it. And the hormone ADH is the hormone that controls that movement of water from the collecting duct.